What's up, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with Tesla SPY and the overall markets. I'm going to break down some big news involving Elon Musk and President Trump, talk about President Trump's quotes and tariffs, as he's been saying some new things about different countries. I'm also going to talk about geopolitics and catalysts for tomorrow. And then finally, what's going on with Tesla stock. Just know that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I'm saying as financial advice. Anyways, as far as the market's going, we saw Tesla in the market trying to rebound just a bit in the morning because we got our PPI numbers over here and everything was below expectations, meaning that inflation came down a little bit more. And this is a good sign, at least for the Fed and such. So Tesla did try to bounce during the pre-markets. We were actually up here around this like 250 area. For us to turn bullish, you want to see us get back above 250. If we hold above that or close above that, we're looking for 262 as a potential target to fill this gap. But if we get a big rejection and we can't hold 230, we're looking for a big dump right back down. So for now, with all this noise involving geopolitical implications, with all this noise involving Donald Trump, Russia, Ukraine, and everything that's going on, the market tried to bounce and it failed so far because not everything is priced in. So that is what's dragging Tesla down. Tesla's down a bit as a result. Tesla, we're going to be watching to see if we can hold our key supports. I think we could be declining a little bit more from here, but we'll see if we form a base to establish a higher low compared to 215. If we dip and make a higher low, we could still see a reversal later on. And that's why I have this view of the markets. I think that the broader markets could dip more. Okay, SPY could dip more, the QQQ could dip more, Tesla could dip more because of what's happening with the geopolitical situation, which has not been fully priced in yet. However, we are developing lots of bullish divergences on Tesla, SPY, ES, the QQQ, and many tickers, which makes me suspect there's going to be a big reversal very soon, a big pivot, and at least a big pump to the upside. I think the market's going to bounce very hard soon, possibly after the government's shutdown is avoided, if that ends up being the case, or if we see some kind of like ceasefire deal between Russia and Ukraine over the weekend. Those could be potential catalysts to cause a very, very big bounce later on. But for now, we're going to be very, very fluid. We're going to be following the price action. And for now, the price action is guiding us a little bit lower for now. So we're going to be watching that to see if we get further declines for the time being. So for now, the charts are bearish, but they have the potential to see a very big bounce if some key things happen. I'll talk about what those things are. Let's first talk about the news, and I'll talk about Tesla stock in a lot more detail. We want to see it break 250 to turn back to bullish, and if we can't hold above 240, we could be retesting the lows of today, if not going a little bit lower for now. But I'll talk more about this in more detail in just a couple of minutes. Let's first talk about some news. So tomorrow in the morning, something that might not be that great is going to be the Michigan Consumer Sentiment data. Tomorrow is going to be Friday, March 14th. At 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have the Michigan Consumer Sentiment reports, the 5-year inflationary expectations, and then consumer confidence. This may cause a little bit of a dip for the markets because, once again, consumer confidence is not very high right now. But as the day goes on, if we see a squeeze, their buyers could step in at the end of the day and try to pump us. We'll see what happens with the government shutdown and such. Tesla's price-price ratio is still elevated because Tesla is still showing strength compared to the markets. Keep in mind, it's been pumping for the last couple of days. We're only down like 2.9% right now. So it's not that bad. It's still showing some resilience, if anything. So keep that in mind, guys. That's what we're essentially seeing, at least thus far. Now, as other things basically continue, this is going to be very important with things that are going on. And I just want to say that, this could also cause a big shift. I also want to add that for Friday, 49.46 there's a 49.46% chance that we see kind of like Tesla being kind of flat. It's typically like that on Fridays. There tends to be more volatility around noon, and also during like the third hour of the day, we tend to see more volatility. And besides that, I just want to add that as time goes on, we are looking decent. So Tesla tends to be very, very weak during the first couple of months, at least to start off each year. But then we tend to get stronger during the summertime. So I'm going to be looking for a big bounce by then. But that's what, historical data kind of suggests for now. Anyways, let's now focus on the news. Then I'll start breaking down these charts. I know this data could be kind of like confusing. So some not so good news came out involving Elon Musk. Today, Elon Musk said in a letter to the U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer that President Donald Trump's trade war can make it a target for retaliatory tariffs against the U.S. And then this is the quote: as a U.S. manufacturer and exporter, Tesla encourages the USTR to consider the downstream impacts on certain proposed actions taken to address unfair trade practices, the electric automaker said in a letter dated on March 11th. Tesla did not immediately respond to Reuters, but this is some big news because the tariffs that Donald Trump is imposing could be affecting Tesla to some extent. Elon Musk has said in the past it's going to be worth it, but for now, this may cause some disruptions for Tesla as well, causing some costs to possibly go up. There's also been some talk from Wall Street about how Tesla's deliveries are not expected to be too strong. It's not the best of news so far. We've been hearing about this for a while as they're expecting about 418,000 EVs for Q1 of 2025. Anyways, there's a lot of news involving Donald Trump I want to talk about. President Trump has been saying some important things. He is threatening 200% tariffs on alcohol that's imported from the EU. Not the best of news considering that they're also trying to increase tariffs on whiskey from the US. So it's kind of like going back and forth. The trade war is continuing. This is what was causing the market to shake a little bit. Then there is some news that's going on about how there's a lot of uncertainty about Donald Trump's overall positioning. He's been saying that the US has been ripped off for quite a while, and he's saying that he's not going to back down on the Canadian tariffs and also tariffs in other countries. That's something else that's worth mentioning. I also want to add that Donald Trump says that he won't back down from the US tariffs on Canada, and that he said, and I quote, that we've been ripped off for years and we're not going to be ripped off anymore. President Trump also mentioned that he does not want to bend at all when it comes to aluminum or steel or car tariffs. He's not going to bend over. He's going to continue to be very stringent. So keep that in mind. Trump is very strict right now. He's not backing down on the tariffs. Then we have this news right here about how Trump's administration is placing more restrictions on Russian oil, gas, and banking sectors, once again further restricting Russia's access to U.S. payment systems as competition continues. Keep that in mind, guys. That's very important. So all this uncertainty about tariffs, Donald Trump threatening more tariffs, and the trade wars that are going on is still affecting the stock market. When it comes to recessionary fears, Donald Trump did mention that he doesn't think the U.S. is going to enter one after all for 2025. Despite that, we have J.P. Morgan's chief economist saying there's about a 40% chance we enter one. So not so good news so far, right? So keep that in mind. There's still a lot of fear that's affecting the way this market's moving, but eventually a lot of it is going to be priced in soon, very, very soon, in my opinion. There's two big catalysts worth mentioning. There's this news involving Russia and Ukraine. So far, okay, Ukraine has agreed to the ceasefire. They want to sign that. Russia so far has said that they support it, but they haven't signed it yet because Vladimir Putin said that on Thursday, Russia needs to basically see a lot of the root causes of the conflicts to be addressed, and more crucial details need to be sorted out. So he made that very clear. And then lastly, the last thing affecting the markets, guys, I know this is a lot, but it's very important to pay attention to all of this. The last thing is going to involve the government shutdown. So the House of Representatives have passed a spending bill that's going to temporarily fund the government until September 30th. That's going to be for 6 months. Now, right now, the bill is passing to the U.S.'s Senate. The Senate is just arguing right now. The Democrats in the Senate want to propose their own bill. Republicans want to go through this one. And they're just arguing, and we're going to see what happens. The deadline is going to be tomorrow night at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we'll see what this leads to, so please keep that in mind. However, what typically happens is they argue, and then at the last minute, they end up passing the bill. I hope that ends up being the case, because if they don't do it, there's going to be what's known as the government shutdown. The government shutdown is going to cause certain workers to not get paid on time. Payments are going to be delayed. Certain benefits, I heard, could be delayed as well. So it's not the best of news. And it's going to be affecting other countries as well. So we want to avoid that. It's bad for the stock market, bad for the economy if we get a government shutdown. I don't want that to happen. We need the government to continue to function. We need people to get paid. So keep that in mind. That's huge news. We need to see this get passed. Right now, there's a lot of fear that there's a government shutdown possibly coming. That's also contributing to why the market is selling off. But eventually, if they do pass the bill, if we avoid the government shutdown by tomorrow, that could be bullish for the markets. So could some kind of ceasefire news between Russia and Ukraine. Two more things. The fear and greed index is currently at 15. And you guys can see that this is the lowest we've seen it in years. Momentum's at extreme fear. The put to call option ratio is going up as we're seeing more sellers stepping in. It's also kind of sad to see volatility at a very, very fearful place. So just keep that in mind. And then on top of this, I just want to mention that when it comes to other factors, we are still seeing a lot of earnings coming out. The earnings for tomorrow are not too significant, so don't worry too much about those. That's it, guys. One more thing, then I'll talk about the charts. As you guys know, I'm promoting Mumu, so if you guys deposit $100, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks if you sign up with my account. If you sign up with my link down below and you basically deposit money, you'll get those benefits. If you deposit $2,000, you're guaranteed 30 in total, not to mention 8.1% APY on uninvested cash, and the offer ends at the end of March. Anyways, without further ado, let's talk about the charts. With that being said, I just want to say that Tesla is looking decent so far, but there's going to be a risk of us declining a little bit more if the market comes down a little bit further. So keep in mind that we could be forming a bearish trend, especially as we have um, this potential pivot that could be coming. I wouldn't be surprised if we get close to the 0.618 fib level right here around this 229 area. That's a possible retracement zone. It depends on if Tesla could break 250. If we break this, we could turn bullish for 262. And if we don't break this, the bearish case is just kind of coming down, making a lower high, and eventually declining like this. So just to be very, very blunt, we're making lower highs. This may make a lower high as well. It's possible we dip a little bit more here, all the way down towards like 229 or so. And then we'll see if we get some kind of rebound move towards the end of the day. I want to see if Tesla can make a higher low compared to 215. If we bounce off our key fib level, then this could be looking for a reversal like this. But I just want to say that there's going to be a risk of somewhat of a dip tomorrow morning with the Michigan Consumer Sentiments data coming out, some fear about tariffs and such. So there might be some downside in all honesty. So be prepared for that for the shorter term. But then as a couple of days go by, if we get the funding bill and such, and if Tesla breaks this trend line in 250, then yes, we could be looking for this gap pull back up towards 262. With that being said, that's actually very possible for Tesla. A little bit of a decline first before it tries to bounce. Unless we lose 215, I would like to see us make a higher low. And then when it comes to SPY, okay, SPY is also making lower lows right now. It's continuing to decline really, really hard. So for the time being, we're just continuing to dump really hard like this. We're forming a bullish divergence on the RSI, at least for SPY, which is a good sign. This is going to be a very, very big reversal. I also say that because we've been dumping and dumping and dumping like there's no tomorrow. When you look at the markets, you have to remember that even during like 2024, we had these declines, but then we get some kind of temporary bounce eventually once news is priced in. Even during the pandemic, the same thing happened, right? If you go to 2022, okay, after the pandemic, we had 2022. The Fed was raising rates. We dumped, bounced a little bit, dumped, bounced a little bit, dumped. Like it always sees some kind of bounce, at least somewhere along the lines. During the pandemic, okay, SPY was doing this. I'm just trying to zoom in for a second. We dumped all the way down to about 286. We bounced back up to 314. Then we dumped. So we eventually do tend to get those bounces. And I think we are due for that. However, However, we're going to not likely get the bounce immediately. I think we might have a little bit more downside left before we see a monstrous bounce. That's what my opinion is for now. So for now, follow the price action. We're bearish. We tried to bounce and we failed so far. So there's going to likely be another move down. Okay. You want to see us get back above 561 if you want to turn bullish. If you want to be bearish, you want to see us lose 555. If that fails, we could be dipping more. My gut tells me it's going to be a mix of both. What's going to initially happen is we start off a little bit higher than the Michigan Consumer Sentiment data may cause another dip. We'll see if we end up hitting these lows and make one more bottom move like this. So there could be a bit more downside coming. However, then there could be a big bounce coming and we could be looking for a big rebound move. We could be trying to bounce again, at least later on if we get the government funding bill or etc. So there is potential in the chart to do this. However, right now we don't have that move. So we're just going to focus on the downside first. We're going to likely see the downside first. Then we'll see if we get that bounce later on. So that's what I'm seeing, at least for now. A little bit of a push in the morning, then a little bit more downside towards 550. If that doesn't hold us, we're looking for about 548 and 545 for potential downside. For the QQQ, we're making lower highs and lower lows all over again. If we break past 478, we're looking for a big bounce. If we end up losing this 465 area, we're looking for a bigger decline. My gut tells me that this is going to try to push in the morning, but if we don't hold 467, I think we're going to test that. If it doesn't hold, we could be dipping to like 465 to 462 on the QQQ to make another move down. Unless we get back above 478 to turn bullish, this is the most likely possibility. Then we'll see if we get some kind of bounce later on, maybe next week, maybe by the end of the day tomorrow to get back above 478. If that's the case, we're looking for a bounce. For now, we're looking a bit more bearish like this, but there could be a bounce coming later on. On the IWM, we're making lower lows at least for the time being, showing some weakness. So please keep that in mind. There's a bullish divergence developing. I want to see us get back above like 202 to bounce. There's a good chance that we try to push towards this imbalance around 200. Then we start declining back down towards these lower levels. This is forming a slight bullish divergence. And then we'll see if we get some kind of rebound from here like this, if we get back above like 201. That's what I'm seeing for now on the IWM. Let's look for further declines for now before we see a bigger bounce later on. On ES, we're looking a bit more bearish. We're making lower highs and lower lows. We're going to be looking for the low 500 and the 5500 area to see if that holds. So we could be retesting this. We'll see if we dip a little bit below this before we see some kind of rebound move. So watch that very, very closely. So we'll see. There's a bullish divergence right here. We'll have to see how things end up going. I also want to mention that the bounce is not guaranteed yet. It could come later on. But for the time being, we may continue to decline on this trend line to make our way back down towards the low 5500s. So look for further declines tomorrow. But by the end of the day, if not by next week, I do expect some kind of big bounce move. NQ is looking bearish, making lower highs right here. We do have equal lows. We might be getting very close to low 19,000. So please be very, very careful right here. And then once we base here, we'll see if we see a big reversal back up to about 19,700. So watch that very closely. On Bitcoin, Bitcoin's making lower highs right here. So there's a good chance we could be dipping to 77,000. This is not a very, very good sign so far. So I do expect a little bit more downside to 80,000, if not 77,000. If that fails to 75,000, it could be coming before it tries to see some kind of bounce. For now, it looks a bit more bearish. Nvda, we need to see if what direction it moves in, because we have our 20 EMA at 113 as the main support. If that holds, we're going to be okay. If we break past 117, we're looking for 120. We're in the middle. So if the market sees a dip like this, it might consolidate a bit, maybe see a small decline before it tries to balance. But this is showing some resilience. So watch and see if 113 holds. Might see a small dip before it tries to rebound. So keep that in mind. Might retest 113 to 111 before it tries to bounce. Once again, for Tesla, there might be a lower high being made unless we break past 250. If we don't break 250, we could be looking for a slight decline before it tries to bounce. Apple's looking bearish because we got a price downgrade from Morgan Stanley. This could be causing us to dip all the way down to about 204, and we'll see if buyers defend. So look for a little bit more downside. On Netflix, we're not looking too good here. We're making lower highs and lower lows. We could be retesting 870. We'll see if we get some kind of bounce move. So look for a little bit more downside. For MSTR, if we break past 270, we could be looking for this gap fill towards 284. If we end up losing 250, we're going to be dumping right here. So with this double bottom-like structure, we have this big gap to fill. We could be trying to push a little bit higher, so we'll see how things end up going here. And overall, I think we're making higher lows. Look for this resistance around 275. We might be pushing a bit higher for MSTR. For Celsius, we have this support at 26. If that fails us, we could be dipping closer to about 25.5. Overall, we are making lower highs, so it's not looking too good. In my opinion, we're making lower highs here, so there's going to be a risk of us declining towards 25. Supermicro is also trying to ride this trend upwards, so we'll have to see how things go. But I do want to mention there's a very, very good chance we kind of rebound and we retest this trend line towards 38 before we see a big move back up. For Palantir has an inverse head and shoulders-like structure. We need to see if this holds or not. And if it does hold, we're looking for a rebound for 84 plus. So watch and see if that ends up being the case. Rolling support nicely, so keep that in mind. For Rivian, we're making lower highs right here. So you want to see what kind of reaction we get. So we're looking for essentially the low 10s, and we'll see what kind of move we make. So we're making lower highs here. I do anticipate we're going to be dipping to the low 10s, and we'll see what kind of reaction we get. For SoFi, we have like an inverse head and shoulders like structure. So in my personal opinion, we're going to be looking for this decline here towards the low 11s before it tries to bounce above 11.86. So watch that very, very closely. For AMD, we are trying to hold support around 95, and we have resistance around this 100 area. We're doing a good job at holding up. Might see a decline right here back down towards the low 96s before it tries to bounce for that gap fill. For ARM, we're forming a nice double bottom right here. I think that there's a very, very good chance we form a double bottom. If we break past 115, we're looking for a bounce for 118. So it's showing some life that it wants to base. We're going to be looking to see how well we hold between 110 to 112 before it tries to bounce. For coin, we could be dipping back down towards 175 to 170. We'll see if we get some kind of rebound move. But I just want to say that 170 could be tested very soon. It's still looking bearish, especially with Bitcoin dipping. We'll see if we bounce. Amazon is trying to base, it's actually showing some strength because it is trying to hold this low. We might come down to about the low 190s before it tries to see a rebound for 197. I need to see it get back above 202 to really balance, but as of right now, look for some consolidation down here. Looks a little bit weak. Same thing with Meta. We might be retesting 585 to low 5As before it tries to bounce. Microsoft is looking kind of weak here, so we have to see how it reacts to about 377 to 375, and we'll see if buyers defend. Google could be dipping to about 163 to 160, and we'll see if we see kind of rebound. GameStop is looking bearish. It might be dipping towards 21.5 before it sees some buyers defend it. AMC is looking bearish. It could be dipping to about 2.75. DJT is looking a bit more bearish, and we could be dipping to about 18.74. One thing that is good, though, is the fact that the VIX kind of has like a head and shoulders. It's also forming a divergence, meaning that the VIX is not making new highs, but the market's making new lows. SPY is making new lows, the market's making new lows, but we're seeing the VIX still, it's not really breaking out as much. This could be indicative that the VIX is going to show some weakness and eventually start to decline, and that could be a divergence that's going to lead to a big bounce in the market soon. The 10-year is still dipping, not really affecting the market as much. And then, dollar has 103.74 as our main like support zone. So we'll see if this continues to push. With that being said, guys, I thank you all so much for listening. I just want to say that as far as Tesla's going, this is looking decent. It's still showing some strength, but I'm going to be looking for these key fib levels. We might be revisiting our 0.786 level down here to see a small decline. As long as we don't lose 215, though, it's possible that Tesla dips a little bit. Then we see some kind of bounce later on. For now, okay, we could dip a little bit more. We could also see SPY, the QQQ, and the others dip more. They're bearish looking for now. But in the future, whether it's by the end of the day tomorrow or by next week, I do see a big bounce still because of our bullish divergences and because the market is still overdue for that. It's also because of the fact that much of the news will be priced in soon as we hit these key levels. So for now, I'm bearish. SPY looks bearish. QQQ is bearish. Tesla is bearish for now. Could we turn bullish in the future? I see a big potential for that, but we have to wait and see. Okay? Thank you for listening. Have a good rest of your day, and I'll be back tomorrow with another upload. Until then, have a good one, and peace out.